The genius sniper god sacrificed himself to save people, but his soul traveled to the future. 30 years later, esports is undoubtedly one of the top sports in the world, and the virtual reality FPS game, Machine Battle Sequence, has become popular worldwide, with numerous events such as urban elite matches, club leagues, and global championships emerging one after another. The Olympics also established formal competition events for it, but the Chinese team is still the underdog. In 2058, a talented Chinese girl emerged, stunning the world with her precise and ruthless marksmanship, as well as the ability to control mechs like elf dances. Countless wealthy clubs were waving their money to snatch money. With her calm and meticulous on-site command and highly intelligent tactical deployment, she turned the tide and brought the weak Chinese team into the Olympics. I'm not fighting alone. Yang Jie revealed the truth during an interview with reporters. Literally speaking, she is the double-soul goddess of war. Keywords of the novel. Double-soul female war god, no pop-ups, double-soul female war god TXT complete collection download, double-soul female war god latest chapter reading. Do you still remember that man in chapter 1:12? You are listening at novel full.audio. Do you still remember that man in chapter 1:12, Chuanjie, aren't you playing games with your boyfriend? Have you ever heard of Sniper God FY? Who is that? I haven't heard of it before. Xiaojie, haven't you ever played games? Why do you still know any Sniper Gods? I just seem to have seen this name somewhere before. FY is the abbreviation for Forever Young. Ah Zhen, do you remember it? In the female dormitory of the School of Civil Engineering at Xanadu University of Technology, a girl with sweat-soaked sideburns and a delicate pale face was asking her roommates. I have no impression at all. English. Forever Young, do you mean Forever Young? No, Jing. She should be referring to that person's ID. What's their name? Xiaojie, you said he's a sniper god, is he very powerful? Sniper god, I haven't seen anyone claiming to be a sniper god yet. Xiaojie, don't be fooled by anyone. This is deceiving you, this big-chested and brainless Ah Zhen. Xiaojie is not interested in games, how could she be deceived? Chuanjie, for the sake of your praise of my big chest, I won't argue with you anymore. The roommates chattered and even joked happily. He is the god of snipers, but he was, the hope of China's FPS, the first Chinese player to win the major championship, and the top one for 2 consecutive years, Forever Young. The girl pursed her lips and said weakly. What champion? So powerful. But I've never heard of it before. It feels like a liar, Xiaojie. You should grow dim sum. What hope does FPS have in China? Isn't it all about shouting slogans every year and having annual tours? My roommates laughed incessantly. That's because in 2028, he sacrificed himself to save a girl who fell into the water. Have you really never heard of this name? Yes, his real name is Yang Jie. The girl's eyes showed a hint of unwillingness and disappointment. It's already 2058 now. What are you saying about 2028? I haven't heard of it. What Yang Jie? Aren't you Yang Jie? Xiaojie, why are you looking so bad and sweating so much? But her roommates had no reaction to what she said, and even reached out to touch her forehead with a smile to see if she had a fever. I'm fine. Yang Jie gently shook her head, but her eyebrows were still furrowed. Okay, I'll help you check on the optical brain. Roommates may have noticed her stubbornness. A girl waved her hand and projected a screen of light with a clarity no less than a 4K monitor from her watch, then entered some key information that Yang Jie had just said. There really is. But this person's name is Yang Jie, different from Xiaojie. He is an outstanding hero. She quickly exclaimed in surprise, and everyone gathered around. You're quite handsome. You're still wearing the national flag, are you really some world champion? But it's all about 2028, so long ago, why do you say he's doing it? Wait, Xiaojie's surname is Yang, isn't it her father? How could it be? Isn't it said that he died in 2028? 30 years ago, Xiaojie didn't even know where he was. But he is indeed a hero, risking his own life to save others. Why is Xiaojie still looking at this? The champion from 30 years ago, hey, who would care who the champion from playing games 30 years ago was? The Olympic champions are quite similar. It's only been a few years since esports entered the Olympics, but it definitely wasn't possible 30 years ago. That's exactly what I mean. If he were the champion now, he would definitely be very impressive. Our country has not won the Olympic Games championship in gaming yet. Scattered. The games from 30 years ago are not the same as the games we have now. Yes, I'll go play later. The roommates gathered for a lively discussion, and then happily dispersed, as if this discovery was not worth mentioning in their world and might have been forgotten in the blink of an eye. Young Jie didn't know why, but listening to their words, she felt a sense of disappointment in her heart. Returning to her seat and sitting down, she stared blankly at the string of Buddhist beads in the center of the desk. This is something young Jie dug up from home. It's not very old and not worth much money. It seems like some childhood souvenirs collected by her mother. It's almost her mother's birthday, and young Jie originally wanted to take it to school and use it as a basis to make some small handicrafts as a commemorative birthday gift for her mother. But young Jie didn't expect that just 10 minutes ago, she had just taken out the Buddha beads from the box and wiped them clean. I just wanted to try it on, but suddenly, a crack appeared in her head, and memories belonging to another person flooded in like a tide. Young Jie, just like what young Jie introduced to her roommates, is a Chinese FPS genius from 2028. At that time, due to the rise of online live streaming, everyone wanted to start live streaming and make quick money. The various teams gradually became outdated, and China's esports competitions continued to be sluggish. It is unknown how many years have passed without good results. Especially in FPS games, there are very few Chinese players with shooting talent, which cannot be compared with other countries or Europe. Many times, Chinese teams cannot even enter the preliminary rounds, ranking lower like men's football, let alone the unattainable goal of winning the championship. At this moment, young Jie stood up. At the beginning, he was just a mysterious player who often climbed the ladder. Due to his lack of live streaming and no information being revealed, many details were handled very roughly. However, his terrifying reaction speed and precise positioning judgment made high-scoring players who encountered him in the ladder, as well as some netizens who saw his replay, question whether he had cheated. Even some professional players have publicly stated that the ID, Forever Young, is problematic. However, young Jie never responded to these doubts, so he silently played the game until his Forever Young account reached the top in Chinese, Asian, American, and even powerful European servers. It was only then that people gradually recognized his strength, and many teams attempted to send him trial training invitations. Young Jie did not accept the invitation from the domestic team, firstly because the domestic team was too weak, many teams could not even qualify for international competitions, and secondly because he was only 16 years old at that time and could not play in the domestic league. He had to wait for adulthood in the youth training team. If he wants to play games, he can only go abroad. After trial training, young Jie joined a professional team in Europe. Don't be fooled by the fact that this team can only be considered a second-tier team in Europe, but that's the European division. Its strength is among the best in Asia, not to mention compared to those domestic rowing teams. So young Jie's career path was not smooth sailing. In his first year as a professional player, his team's performance was very poor. Although they have won championships in small second and third-tier events, who would pay attention to regular events? The key first-tier events are mostly one-round tournaments, and some even cannot even qualify for the qualifiers. However, in these competitions, young Jie demonstrated his strength to the world. In the live broadcast of the competition, we often see him killing in all directions. Even in the face of a strong team with a significant overall strength gap, he can still play back and forth against some top professional players. The broadcaster and commentator all like him very much because he always has exciting shots of double or triple kills, and many commentators even feel that he is not worth it because his teammates still struggle when he has a numerical advantage, repeatedly ruining the great situation he has worked hard to achieve. Everyone thinks that Yang Jie will leave, and the top teams will compete to sign him. But Yang Jie did not leave, although some wealthy teams did throw olive branches at him. Yang Jie didn't leave, but the team made proactive adjustments. In the second year, the team underwent personnel changes, and an experienced veteran player who had played for a top-tier team became Yang Jie's teammate. He served as the commander of the team, and Yang Jie was pushed to the position of a sniper who could play more skillfully. Even though his rifle was equally strong. This year, their team first suppressed and then rose. After the team successfully adapted, they emerged from the slump of the first half of the year and began to become the dark horses of major competitions. They either played the top strong teams to the point where they couldn't make it out of the group stage, or played well against the champion team. Even if they lost in the end, everyone saw their terrifying strength. Yang Jie's performance is even more dazzling. His sniper is as fast as lightning, killing many teams in fear, and even avoiding his sharpness during matches. As long as he hears the sound of the sniper rifle, he immediately changes lanes. Thanks to the team's improved performance and his performance in the game, Yang Jie was successfully selected for the top 20 of that year. The third and fourth years were 2 years when Yang Jie and his team's achievements completely exploded. Due to a new coach and better team integration, they won one championship after another. The most eye-catching event is undoubtedly the official highest standard event. The major competition held twice a year. They won the championship twice in the second half of 2026 and the first half of 2027, successfully defending their title, and the previously unknown second-line team leapt to become a top-tier strong team. Not to mention Yang Jie, his MVP award was soft, and the media also rated him as the undisputed top 1 player in the past 2 years. However, in 2028, Yang Jie's contract with the team expired, and there were rumors online that he would not renew his contract. Just when everyone thought he was going to sign a contract with a prestigious team and continue his legend, Yang Jie announced on social media that he was leaving Europe and returning to China. Many esports media and fans look bewildered. Go back to China. Those teams don't have a successful team, they can't even make it to the qualifiers. Don't they want to play major anymore? Yang Jie is only 21 years old in 2028. This is the golden age for an esports and FPS player. Why choose to leave when the future is uncertain? Only Yang Jie knew that he had not left, but had just returned with a dream to start anew. He wanted to return to China to form the All-China class, continue playing games, and realize his dream of becoming a major champion for Chinese players. But all of this was not realized in time, not even made public, and his life remained forever at the age of 21. Yang Jie knew so well because when Yang Jie's memories flooded in just now, she felt like she had gone through this boy's life from beginning to end, with all the ups and downs vividly in her mind. All of this is too true, and evidence has been found online. It can be said that if it weren't for the vastly different personality and completely different preferences of this boy, Yang Jie might have been overwhelmed by this massive amount of information, and even had doubts about whether she was Yang Jie or Yang Jie. Xiao Jie, let's go out and play. Are you going or not? When Yang Jie was still sitting there daydreaming, her roommate's voice brought her to her senses. Turning her head, Yang Jie realized that Dai Manchun and Zhang Zizhen had already changed into graceful dresses and put on makeup on their faces at some point. Why are you calling Xiao Jie? She doesn't like to go to places like internet cafes. Didn't I want to introduce a few boys to her? Seeing the world makes it easier for her not to be deceived by some strange people online. We're going to play games, she definitely won't go. It's useless to ask. Upon hearing them say the words, internet cafe, and game, Yang Jia suddenly felt an indescribable impulse in her heart. Well, let me go take a look with you guys. Yang Jia stood up to everyone's surprise. Really? Are you really going with us? Originally just jokingly inviting her, Dai Manchun was surprised. She slightly opened her mouth and looked incredulous. Xiaojie, didn't you say that we should go to the study room to study in the afternoon? Xiao Xuejing, who was reading a book, heard it and turned to ask in surprise. Jing, you can go by yourself today. I want to see how they play games. Yang Jia apologized to her. In the past, she did not play games and was quite resistant to being exposed to them, but it is unclear whether she was influenced by Yang Jia's memory. Now her thoughts seem to have changed, and games are no longer like wild beasts. Moreover, Yang Jia developed a desire to learn about the game and see what its charm was. She made Yang Jia forget to eat and sleep for it, give her all for it, and even if she died, she still had a deep obsession for it. Xiaohan's new book has arrived. This time, let's try the game theme, which is actually familiar to Xiaohan. I hope this story can make everyone like it. Seeking collection, seeking recommendation tickets, seeking monthly tickets, 3, end of this chapter. Chapter 2. Dungeons and Virtual Devices, 22. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Dungeons and Virtual Devices, 22, Unmanned taxis shuttle quietly through the underground tunnel flickering with shopping advertisements. Before long, Yang Jia and her roommates arrive at the entrance of the largest underground city in Xanadu. Jinrun World. Taking the elevator from the -2nd floor to the -10th floor, the door only opened a small crack, and the noisy sound of selling and the smoke of barbecue came in. Soon, a bustling and lively market came into view. Although it is a deep artificial space underground, the super-large commercial square that Yang Jia and her companions walked into still won't make you feel even a little bit of oppression. The hidden lamp that simulates sunlight shines brightly everywhere, and the sky above is 3 or 4 stories high. It also uses special devices to simulate blue sky and white clouds. If you don't look carefully, it's hard to imagine yourself underground on the -10th floor. Even compared to the surface, the environment of underground cities is better, with green plants everywhere and good air quality, which will not affect people's physical health. Yang Jia followed her roommates through the crowd of people shopping, and she wouldn't be surprised by this scene. The Third World War caused pollution of the natural environment, and after the war, humans moved their living scenes to indoor or even underground spaces equipped with filtration systems. The construction technology of underground cities developed rapidly during times of war. Everyone dug holes underground to avoid the flames of war. It is worth mentioning that Yang Jia and her students studied civil engineering, and the most important course was underground architecture. After the war, these technologies were utilized by people, and underground cities that could provide more people with shelter and life were dug up under the ruins of the war-torn cities. There are 12 underground cities like Jinrun World in Xanadu. Of course, Jinrun World, which covers an area of over 2,000 acres and has an underground depth of over 10 floors, is the largest and busiest in Xanadu. However, although Yang Jia has also been to Jinrun World to buy things, Dai Manchun and her companions have never paid attention to the Tailorin Internet Cafe before, let alone went to play. I pierced and killed on a cold winter night, the snowflakes in the sky are my veil, boundless, endless, crazy, fearful, all that's left is struggle. Stepping into the automatic glass door with excellent sound insulation, the heavy metal music sung by the singer was like a terrifying tsunami, pressing against Yang Jia with a thick sound wall. Even though she had been mentally prepared, Yang Jia frowned and stopped walking. What kind of environment are these? It's black and painted, still so noisy, it feels like a chaotic nightclub at this moment. Dai Manchun and Zhang Zizhen, who had finished communicating with the virtual robot sitting at the front desk serving guests, returned. Zhang Zizhen even handed her a helmet that looked like a motorcycle hat, and they each had one. Put it on. Looking at her mouth shape, Yang Jia obediently put the helmet on her head with them. It's amazing that after putting on the helmet, the world becomes quiet. The deafening heavy metal music was isolated outside the helmet, and Yang Jia could still hear Zhang Zizhen's teasing laughter clearly. How's it going? Xiao Jia, isn't it not suitable for such an environment? Yang Jia really felt uncomfortable. Even with a helmet on and no strong sound interference in her hearing, she could still see her surroundings, and even when her mood returned to a calm state, she could see more clearly. Inside the internet cafe, it's not pitch black. In fact, the walls are covered with hidden light strips, with alternating shades of purple, red, and blue. When light and shadow flow through, those exaggerated and mechanical graffiti suddenly appear again. Even the realistic robots at the front desk have a purple non-mainstream hairstyle, and the wiring is exposed. The combination of steel pipes and various colored cables exudes a strong cyberpunk atmosphere overall. These can be called art, but they are still not the style that Yang Jia likes. However, although she was a little scared, she didn't want to appear too fragile in front of her roommates. She shook her head wearing a helmet. Let's go up. They booked a large private room and were thrilled to hear that Xiao Jia had come. Dai Manchun took them by elevator and arrived at the -5th floor. Sure enough, all 4 boys were already waiting at the entrance of the private room. Seeing the appearance of the girls, they held water bottles and beverage bottles one by one and cheered loudly, beating drums and gongs. Welcome Xiao Jia. Hey, isn't Xiao Xuejing here? Dai Manchuan's boyfriend Sun Ruebua stood at the front and greeted Yang Jia with a smile. Previously, he invited his girlfriend and her roommates to have dinner together, so he met Yang Jia once. She didn't come, there's something else to do this afternoon. Yang Jia held her helmet and spoke softly. They took off their helmets while taking the elevator, which were used for playing games. Okay, let me introduce them to you. They are my roommates. This is Chen Hualuan, followed by Yuan Junfeng and Gu Yan. Sun Ruebua introduced. Although Yang Jia has never seen these 3 boys, she has heard Dai Manchun and Zhang Zizhen mention them in the dormitory before. Chen Hualuan has a close relationship with Zhang Zizhen. He has been chasing Zhang Zizhen and Zhang Zizhen often goes out to play with him. Just their relationship has not been confirmed yet, Zhang Zizhen said it's not urgent. Gu Yan is nothing special, but it is said that Yuan Junfeng fell in love at first sight after seeing Yang Jia's photo. He has been pestering Sun Ruebua and Dai Manchun, hoping that they can help arrange for Yang Jia to meet and have a meal. But how could Yang Jia agree? She has no idea of dating at all, let alone her previous views on games and dislikes boys who play games. However, Yuan Junfeng should not have given up. Now when I see Yang Jia, he has always been beaming with joy. If it weren't for trying hard to endure, the corners of his mouth would probably have grinned to his ears. Wait a moment, the 5 of us will team up to play the ladder. Often, you should be responsible for accompanying Xiao Jia's sister. Whatever games she likes to play, you can take her to play together. Sun Ruebua pretended not to have discussed it before and arranged it, while others pretended to be unaware and listened attentively, nodding frequently. Okay, leave it to me. Don't worry. Yuan Junfeng patted his chest. They didn't wait for Yang Jia to react, so they frowned and put on their helmets, and then skillfully stepped on the large gaming platforms in the private room. Yang Jia has heard of virtual devices and also caught a glimpse of them in advertisements, but this is the first time she has seen others play with her own eyes. The virtual device is very large, and its base is an omnidirectional running mat of about 10 square meters. No wonder they have to come to the internet cafe to play games. Even if the school can't help but, there are not enough of these devices in the dormitory. I don't know what material the cushion is, it looks like a trampoline, but Yang Jia saw that they are very sturdy when stepping on it. Surrounded by a mesh guardrail, the hemispherical roof at the top lowers various components with traction ropes, and the guardrail pillars around extend mechanical arms to assist players in wearing these components with light and agile movements. The gloves on the hands, the sleeves and elbows on the forearms, the shoulder straps on the upper arms, the calves, thighs, waist, hips, and so on. These components almost cover the entire body, and when fitted, they look like tight-fitting clothes, but with ropes connected in all directions, it looks both sci-fi and eerie. Finally, there are special glasses that can cover both eyes, as well as two control handles that they hold in their hands. Obviously, these three things play a very important role in gaming, just like the monitors, keyboards, and mice used to be in computer games. Young Jie just looked curiously for a while, and then saw them holding onto the handle like guns, scanning left and right, and occasionally rolling and jumping, as if the battle was very intense. Does it seem like it's really fun? Young Jie didn't know why, but a strong desire surged again in her heart. So, Xiaojie, what game do you want to play? Yuan Junfeng nervously asked a question, which brought her back to her senses and reminded her of someone next to her. What game to play? Yang Jie hesitated. Where does she know what game to play? She doesn't even know what games there are. How about I take you to play Elf Kingdom? This game is quite casual, and the scenery inside is very beautiful, all with green mountains and clear waters. Upon seeing this, Yuan Junfeng took the initiative to propose. No need to guess, he has a selfish heart. Although the game Elf Kingdom is indeed as he said, it is just a leisurely game with no difficulty, but there are scenes of rowing and horseback riding inside. Yuan Junfeng knew that Yang Jie would definitely not know how to play. He could take her on a boat in the tranquil lake under the starry sky, or ride her horse and whip her in the valley full of flowers. How romantic! Elf Kingdom has been named the best dating game of the year by players. But just as Yuan Junfeng's heart was pounding wildly, eagerly waiting for Yang Jie to nod and say, "Good," Yang Jie pointed to the crowd playing games. What game are they playing? Yang Jie asked. Well, the game they're playing is called Machine Warfare Sequence, which is an FPS game. FPS means first-person shooting, which is simply a game of shooting and fighting. It may be intense and difficult, and you may not necessarily like it. Yuan Junfeng honestly introduced himself. Why are you such a cute girl playing this game? Let's go rowing and riding horses quickly. Maybe I can even make a wreath for you and catch a rabbit. But Yuan Junfeng didn't notice that when Yang Jie heard him say FPS, a bright light flashed in her eyes. Let's play this too. Yang Jie's answer surprised him greatly. She really chose Machine Warfare Sequence. Moreover, despite Yang Jie's small stature and soft voice, her gaze was very firm, which made Yuan Junfeng lose the courage to persuade her after seeing her. Okay, it's okay to play this game. Machine Wars Sequence is currently the most popular FPS game in the world, and because it was jointly developed by the 5 core countries, it is used as an FPS event in the Olympics. Yuan Junfeng's attitude changed quickly. Yuan Junfeng taught Yang Jie how to enter the virtual device, but after she stepped on it, she suddenly remembered something and quickly called out to her. By the way, Xiaojie, I need to remind you. Yang Jie stood on the omnidirectional running mat, looking at him with her eyes. At the same time, a grid-like light was emitted from the top device, scanning her entire body from top to bottom, whether it was verifying identity or modeling in the game. After you enter the game, because you are a newcomer, there will be a new guided storyline in Machine Battle Sequence. My suggestion is that you can long press the button on the left joystick and jump over. Later, I will take you to try this game slowly. The new guide is very exciting, I'm afraid you will be scared. Yuan Junfeng said sincerely. Very stimulating. Will it scare you? Xiao Huan changes twice a day, seeking support. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. This cannon is right in front of us. 12. You are listening at novel full.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 4. But, 22. You are listening at novel full.audio. Chapter 4. But, 22, the time in the game seemed to pass quickly. When I got off the plane just now, the scorching sun was shining brightly, and it wasn't long before evening, when the sky gradually darkened. In the collapsed ruins of the city, a 5-person combat team formed a column, quietly approaching the mission target under the cover of night in dilapidated buildings. Cha-cha, cha-cha. Their footsteps were very faint, and even as they were observing the surrounding environment with their guns gesturing left and right, they would be very careful to avoid the broken bricks and stones along the way. Walking at the 4th place in the team is a petite warrior, tightly wrapped in a thick bulletproof suit. Only a few strands of hair falling from under the bulletproof helmet can one distinguish her as a female warrior. Yang Jie's current movements also look decent. Although she is only holding a pistol and has a slightly weak aura, at least she looks like a soldier performing a mission. Her movements are clean and agile, with soft lines and a serious and focused expression on her pink and smooth face. Thanks to the beard man's hairdryer, Yang Jie received a lot of scolding from him along the way. Where is the muzzle aimed? Is the handgun held like this? The teacher who teaches you in the military academy must be trash. Bend your knees for me. Who sent you this trash to me? Watch ahead, don't look at me. If you were an enemy, I would have shot you long ago. Being constantly scolded, even if Yang Jie has a good temper, she can't bear it. Fortunately, Hu Zinan switched to the front as an investigator, allowing Yang Jie's ears to remain quiet for a moment. There's a situation. As they walked, the team suddenly stopped, and the Hu Zinan at the forefront clenched his left hand and raised his head, causing everyone to become vigilant. Yang Jie also nervously gripped the Desert Eagle in her hand, her palms slightly moist. Find cover. The next second, the bearded man's warning and the crackling of gunfire sounded almost simultaneously. The 3 teammates were very disciplined, and as soon as they heard any movement, they scattered and rushed towards the nearby low wall shelter. Yang Jie's reaction was not so fast, and the sudden burst of gunfire within reach made her feel a bit panicked. Just like the firecrackers set off in her hometown during the Chinese New Year. Even if she was cautious, she would still be scared back and forth. A huge force came from her arm, and Yang Jie was once again pulled by the bearded man, staggering and hiding behind the low wall. However, Hu Zinan didn't hesitate to scold her this time because he picked up his gun and began to counterattack, constantly directing his teammates in various positions through the team's voice channel. Number 3, look at the 9 o'clock direction. Number 2, throw thunder towards you at 1 o'clock. Crossfire, take turns changing bullets. Yang Jie had no idea what she should do, and even she couldn't understand the instructions of the bearded man. What is the 9 o'clock direction? What is a 1 o'clock direction? Should we raise our guns like Hu Zinan to counterattack? However, she hid behind this low wall, constantly bombarded by bullets, with flowing bullets flying over her head. Even though she knew it was a game, the almost real sound effects and visuals still gave her a strong sense of oppression psychologically. Yang Jie crouched beside the bearded man with her head down, tightly grasping the Desert Eagle with both hands. She felt like she should do something, but didn't know how to do it. A face full of confusion, what are you doing here? Look at my butt. A foot came over and kicked her. Yang Jie turned her head and saw that the bearded man was staring at her with fierce eyes. Look at your butt. What does it mean? Literal meaning or other profound meaning? Yang Jie, a pure newcomer to the game, feels a bit absurd and also feels a bit aggrieved. A programmed NPC, it's okay to shout at oneself, but now it's still playing hooliganism with the identity of team leader. Just as Yang Jie was dumbfounded and her cat was motionless behind the low wall, and Hu Zinan was about to lower his head to change bullets after firing a shot, 2 figures wearing gray military uniforms suddenly appeared in her field of vision. What kind of people are they? Why does it seem like there are faint red circles? Although Yang Jie noticed, her head couldn't bend at once. She even looked curiously, trying to see the badges on their bodies clearly. The two people who came from behind crawled for a while, then casually looked up and met Yang Jie's eyes. Almost in an instant, two gray uniformed men lifted the muzzle of their guns. Air solidifies. Sword drawn and crossbow drawn. Electric firestone. Yang Jie only then realized the arrival of the crisis. It's the enemy. But now I realize, is it a bit too late? It's not too late. Just when Yang Jie thought she was finished, she uncontrollably lifted her hands and pulled the trigger with her fingers. Bang! The strong recoil of shot made her hand uncontrollably lift upwards. She didn't wait for her to see clearly whether she had hit or not, and her legs uncontrollably jumped to the side. After landing, she lifted her hands again. Bang! She saw it clearly this time. The cross cursor happened to point at the head of the remaining enemy, and he felt as if he had been hit by a stone. His head suddenly tilted back, and then fell to the ground with a loud bang. There is another enemy lying next to him. What is the situation? Is this what I called? Yang Jie was confused, then lowered her head and looked at her hands in disbelief. She never even thought about shooting. Why did she move it by herself? Good fight, newcomer. You killed the enemy who attacked our buttocks and protected our comrades. Now, I declare that you are a qualified warrior. At this moment, the gunfire ahead also stopped, indicating that the teammates had also resolved the battle. And the bearded man's palm patted Yang Jie's weak shoulder, speaking his lines in a serious tone. The rare praise made Yang Jie somewhat flattered. No, I don't know yet. Did I really hit it? Yang Jie obediently lowered her head and rubbed the ground with her toes. She felt ashamed of such achievements. Just now, she thought those two gray soldiers who attacked were reinforcements. By the way, that's what "but" means. Just now, the captain asked himself to show him his butt, but he misunderstood at this thought. The girl's pretty face turned red and she felt even more embarrassed to lift her head. Don't stand here, clean up the battlefield. We don't have much time, we'll continue in 5 minutes. Hu Zinan patted her head, although it turned into a reproachful tone again. This time he didn't curse like before, and his words didn't sound so unpleasant. Yang Jie felt very comfortable listening. She ran with small steps, willingly following Hu Zinan and learning from him to gather firearms and ammunition on the battlefield. As for why could I kill those two attackers myself? Yang Jie has temporarily put this issue on hold. Time is tight, only 5 minutes, she needs to cherish it well. Picking up a gun is a very happy thing. Because these were all her own spoils of war, Yang Jie happily picked up the rifles of the two attackers just now, and tirelessly picked up the sniper guns and heavy machine guns that her comrades had shot down from afar. Anyway, it's a game and it's not heavy. Yang Jie ran 2 more times and picked it up. Unfortunately, Yang Jie felt a bit regretful that these guns looked quite ugly, each one tough and either black or painted in a very rustic camouflage. Is it without skin? Yang Jie remembers the games Yang Jie and his team played. The guns and knives had various skins, cool, cute, textured, and dazzling. It was said that some skins were very rare and could be sold at high prices. It would be great if the gun in the game Machine Warfare Sequence also had a skin. Yang Jie doesn't have high requirements, a shiny golden big gun. No matter what gun, she likes it. Hurry up, pick a gun and bring the ammunition. Hu Zinan interrupted her reverie and inexplicably urged her. Can only choose one. Yang Jie gave him a white glance, but the other party seemed to have no reaction. You can only choose one, and you can't get 2 main weapons either. Hu Zinan's "why don't you understand anything" look was very disrespectful, making Yang Jie grit his teeth. How could it be impossible to take it? She felt that although these guns had a certain weight and were reflected in the game controller, they were not too heavy. Based on her experience picking up guns just now, not to mention carrying 2 guns, even if it's one on her left and one on her right, and one on her back, she can definitely hold it. Young Jia wanted to give it a try. She picked up a gun from the ground and then went to pick up another one. At this moment, a very magical situation appeared. She can indeed hold 2 guns at the same time, but in this way, her feet become immovable. No matter how much she moves her legs in reality, she remains motionless in the game, let alone doing anything else. What's going on? Being unable to move like this makes it a live target for the enemy. A prompt appeared in Yang Jie's vision asking her to lower one of the guns. After she did it honestly, her body returned to normal. It seems that one can only carry a long gun. Hu Zinan was beside her, although she didn't mock her. Yang Jie felt embarrassed to look at him again, feeling like a non-believing clown. It is indeed regrettable that not all the spoils of war can be taken away. But there's no way, she has to abide by the game rules. Yang Jie first replenished her pistol ammunition, recovering from 5 out of 0 just now to full 7/35. Then it's time to pick a long spear. The main weapon mentioned by Hu Zinan. What should I choose? Yang Jie looked at her spoils of war. In fact, she prefers small submachine guns that look a bit larger than handguns. They are small and cute, very suitable for girls to hold. However, as her gaze swept over one of the sniper guns with a long barrel and a large barrel, a strong desire suddenly surged in her heart. Do you have this gun? In fact, Yang Jie also recognized this gun. Don't be fooled by the fact that it has been changed to a gray spray paint that fits well in urban ruins, and the gun body has been slightly adjusted, but just like this, it's clearly AWP. In Yang Jie's memory, there are countless shots about AWP, and he doesn't even know how many matches he has completed with this gun or how many championships he has won. Originally, Yang Jie didn't really want to take it. The reason was similar to other long guns, and it was longer than them and more like a burning stick. But the inexplicable longing in her heart also reminded her of these memories of Yang Jie. Are these too emotional? Yang Jie felt that she was still influenced by Yang Jie's memory, which is why she had these ideas that were somewhat contradictory to herself. Captain, I'll take this gun. Yang Jie finally made up her mind, grabbed AWP in her hand, and said to Hu Zinan. Hu Zinan didn't say much and waved his palm, gesturing for her to follow the team. Xiaohan has already signed a contract, please request a recommended ticket and a monthly ticket. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Terrifying Exoskeleton Armored Warriors, 12. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Terrifying Exoskeleton Armored Warriors, 12, bang, bang, bang. In the virtual training range, Yuan Junfeng was boring and pulling the trigger at the target. It's more accurate to say he's killing time than to say he's practicing guns. Because Yuan Junfeng's mind was not on the target, he occasionally glanced at the friend list opened in the upper right corner. But Yang Jie's state has not changed, she is still in the task of being a novice guide. It's been over 10 minutes. Why is she still playing with this? Who plays games and still plays beginner's guide? Aren't they all just jumping over directly? Moreover, Yuan Junfeng just instructed her not to show off her strength. The physical feedback from the novice guide was very real, whether it was an explosion or being shot, almost 100% showcasing the cruelty of the real battlefield. For veteran gamers, these have little impact and they still enjoy them. But Xiaojie's younger sister is still a beginner and a soft girl who looks delicate and pitiful to me. Yuan Junfeng is worried that she will be scared. If he dares not play games anymore because of this, how will Yuan Junfeng have the chance to see her again in the future? Hey, we can't send her a message to come out yet. This mode doesn't allow chatting. Yuan Junfeng sighed deeply and looked at Yang Jie's profile picture on his friend list with eager eyes. Young Jie is not as fragile as he thinks. Although at first she was indeed scared out of control and at a loss in the face of sudden battles, she had good adaptability and gradually became accustomed to this chaotic gaming atmosphere. Even as the sky turned completely dark, she didn't feel afraid. Sand, sand. Young Jie carried the AWP and walked with the team in a desolate city ruins. Without lights, the cities after the war seem to have lost their power supply, and the night is like a dark curtain enveloping them, reaching out without a trace. Of course, night marching is feasible because soldiers have night vision devices. At this moment, young Jie's perspective was like being caught on a green screen, with the ruins of the surrounding buildings clearly visible. What was even more beautiful was the starry sky that seemed to wander in the green ocean. I don't know if it was they that illuminated the world in front of her. Will there be a little deer suddenly jump out and come face to face with me? Young Jie's mood was very happy. She didn't even feel like she was carrying out a mission full of crises. Instead, it felt like she was running to the outskirts to explore buildings that had not been destroyed by war, hoping to have an unexpected encounter with the tenacious elves living in nature. There will definitely be no deer here, because it is a city ruins that have been bombed to pieces. But the unwelcome guest seemed to hear young Jie's call, bang, bang, bang. There was almost no warning, even the experienced Hu Zimin did not pay attention. Young Jie only saw a sudden burst of strong light ahead, and the next second there was a loud gunshot in her ear. Enemy attack, enemy attack. Young Jie has gained experience this time. As soon as she and her comrades heard any movement, they immediately rolled and crawled, scattering and hiding towards the nearby ruins, and even sought opportunities to counterattack. However, where are the enemies? Young Jie held the sniper rifle in her hand and looked at the front without a trace of anyone in confusion, just like holding a torch. No. Hu Zimin, who was hiding behind the same bunker as her, did not immediately raise his gun and shoot. He looked ahead with serious eyes and muttered softly. What's wrong? Young Jie heard his voice on the teammate's channel and gave him a puzzled look. But she was not given a chance to inquire at all, because the next second, Hu Zimin's face changed greatly. 35 degrees west, fast, suppress firepower. He didn't finish speaking, and his comrades didn't have time to turn their guns. In the night sky in that direction, a shell with a long tail flame roared and attacked. Boom! A teammate's hiding place was hit, and the flames in half of the sky, dyed red with intense shockwaves, directly overturned young Jie and Hu Zimin, who were more than 10 meters away, to the ground. That teammate is gone. Young Jie couldn't check the rescue because the falling stones made her unable to lift her head, and even the night vision device was destroyed. But in the visual field, her individual system can provide information about her teammates, such as their health, the firearms and props they carry, and so on. A teammate's avatar turned gray in an instant. No need to guess, young Jie also knew that he had sacrificed himself in the shell attack just now. Without time to grieve, another howling sound pierced through the air, followed by a deafening explosion. Young Jie held her head and dared not move, only knowing that the portrait of another teammate had faded. What should we do? Are we going to be blown up one after another? Young Jie was anxious in her heart, but she had no battlefield experience and couldn't come up with any strategies to deal with it. Damn it! Get up quickly. Change positions. At this moment, Hu Zimin braved the impact of the explosion and pulled her up from the ground. Young Jie was dragged by him and couldn't stand steady. She stumbled and ran a few steps before falling, completely losing her balance. But Hu Zimin didn't give up. He gritted his teeth and forcefully pulled her towards a slightly farther cover. Just as they were hiding, another firelight flashed across the sky, and their hiding place was blown up into the sky just now. What is that? Young Jie saw this time, and it was the moment when the shell was fired at the tail flame illuminated the attacker. Her dynamic vision is very good, even in a short moment, she can see it clearly. The attacker's figure seems to be even more burly than a normal person, and his whole body is full of metal texture, with the flames light flowing like water ripples on it. What made her most incredulous was that after the shell was fired, the attacker immediately jumped out of the ruins, which were 3 or 4 floors high, and then disappeared into the darkness like a rabbit after a few jumps. What kind of monster is this? The gravity of the earth seems to have no effect on it. Exoskeleton armored warrior. Hu Zinan gave her an accurate answer. Exoskeleton armor. Is this exoskeleton armor? Yang Jie is not ignorant either. Exoskeleton armor has long been widely used in real life, such as logistics, transportation, construction sites, and even lunar mining areas, medical and health fields. But those exoskeleton armor focuses on being labor-saving, assisting humans in picking up heavier items, without much connection to the term flexible. However, the exoskeleton armored warrior that Yang Jie just saw turned into a Superman bitten by a rabbit after putting on the exoskeleton armor, jumping several meters high and several meters far, coming and going without a trace. Is this too exaggerated? Is it because the game magnifies the role of exoskeleton armor, or is it because military exoskeleton armor has higher technological content, which is so outrageous? There is currently no answer to this question, as Yang Jie and Hu Zinan had just breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that they had not been detected and could escape a disaster. When they heard a muffled bang in the distance, a shell with a long tail flame reappeared in their sight. This time, the shell was not aimed at them, but when it exploded in the air, it shone like a huge sun, illuminating the sky as bright as day. Yang Jie's face was also illuminated to a pale hue, and her delicate cherry lips seemed to have no blood color. Is this a flare? The shadow on the ground was instantly dispelled, and no one could hide their figure in this strong light. Yang Jie and her comrades couldn't avoid it, and the exoskeleton armored soldier also showed his figure. His burly figure stood on the ruins, giving people a sense of fear and despair of oppression. Ah! The remaining comrade seemed unable to withstand the pressure and roared out from behind the sheltered shelter, holding a rifle and frantically shooting towards the direction of the exoskeleton armored soldier. The bullets in the rifle were limited, but before he could finish firing a single shot, the exoskeleton armored warrior's counterattack came. Da-da-da-da. The firing of machine guns has a strong sense of rhythm, like the dense drumbeats at a concert. But there is no romance in the battlefield. When the torrential flames from the machine gun swept through, Yang Jie watched helplessly as blood mist exploded on her comrade, and large-caliber bullets instantly tore him into pieces. Subsequently, the rubble that exploded from the cover covered him and there was no more sound. Another living life disappeared before her eyes. They were all comrades who had just protected her all the way. Even though Yang Jie knew it was a game, she still felt overwhelmed. At this moment, she had already forgotten her fear, and her heart was filled with only strong sadness and sorrow like old wine. Wake up. New recruit, you need to pick yourself up. The shaking of the bearded man brought Yang Jie back to her senses. Remember every word I say next. Take this. Hu Zinan stuffed something like a remote control into Yang Jie's hand. You stay here and mark that son of a bitch with it. Remember to press this red button after marking, otherwise my sacrifice will be in vain. Hu Zinan's expression remained as serious as ever, his face as fierce as ever, but at this moment, his eyes seemed to have a light, which was a resolute determination to face death as if returning home. What sacrifice? Yang Jie still wants to ask clearly. But she couldn't grasp the bearded man's hand. After the other person patted her shoulder, she suddenly stood up and charged out with a rifle. X. Come on, labor and capital are here. There's a way to kill labor and capital. If you can't kill me, I'll kill you. Didn't you eat? The gun is as soft as XX without eggs. Just like the comrade in arms in front, Hu Zinan was also cursing and shooting at the exoskeleton armored soldiers. However, he didn't foolishly stand in place as a target. He cursed and fired 2 shots, then charged towards the next bunker, and cursed and fired 2 shots, constantly changing positions. The exoskeleton armored soldier's response was very tough, with the machine gun pulling the trigger without letting go and shooting at the bearded man's position. Even though Huzinin ran very fast and narrowly avoided his strafing every time, the crazy bullets still shattered every piece of space he had ever stayed in, and all the shelters in the middle were smashed into pieces. Bricks and stones exploded into powder, raising thick smoke and dust. Yang Jie was not within the coverage range of the flood of bullets, and Huzinin took his firepower away from her direction. But as she looked at Huzinin, who was desperately trying to dodge and struggle, just to fight for a first-line survival opportunity for her, tears had already blurred her eyes. Although he always scolds himself, his words are extremely unpleasant, and he doesn't know how to cherish his fragrance or jade at all. Yang Jie just doesn't like him and doesn't want him to die. And, isn't everything he does for her good? Even now, risking oneself is to protect her. No, I can't just cry. We need to find a way to save the captain. If he continues like this, he won't be able to run the bullets and will really die. Yang Jie didn't know how to save Huzinin, but her mind was filled with his instructions before leaving. She bit her lower lip to break free from her grief, picked up the remote control given by Huzinin, aimed it at the exoskeleton armored enemy, and pressed the red button. Looking for recommended tickets, looking for monthly tickets. PS. Thank you to Autumn Godlight and Book Friends for their tips on 202209232218222204. 3. End of this chapter. Chapter 6, Little Sister, Let Me Come. 22. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6, Little Sister, Let Me Come. 22. The red button was pressed, but the scene of Yang Jie's expected exoskeleton armored soldier exploding in place did not appear. Instead, behind the exoskeleton armored soldier holding a huge machine gun, a burly but agile figure jumped out again. It was the exoskeleton armored soldier who used a howitzer to bomb Yang Jie's comrades before. Wait, they're not the same person. Are there 2 exoskeleton armored warriors? One movement is very agile, while the other seems to move slowly due to the weight of the machine gun. Now is not the time to think about it. When Yang Jie saw the appearance of the killing god Sun Min like a monkey, her heart couldn't help but tighten. Captain is in danger. Boom. Still the same old routine, agile exoskeleton armored soldiers jumped into the air and fired a grenade. As Yang Jie's gaze moved along the parabolic trajectory of the grenade, the exploding flames had already engulfed the bearded man's figure. No. The earth shaking caused by the explosion made Yang Jie almost unable to stand on her feet, but she ignored herself and scratched the wall tiles, looking at the direction where Huzinin finally appeared with cracked eyes. There is no miracle to expect, because in Yang Jie's field of vision, the individual system prompts their team's health information. The only red line that accompanied Yang Jie just now has completely disappeared, and the portrait of the bearded man has turned gray. Captain. Yang Jie collapsed weakly to the ground, her smooth face covered in cold tears. At this moment, she wished Huzinin could scold her a few more times. Even if he curses harshly, even if he is still so ferocious, even if I don't like his bad habit of spitting, I'm just a new recruit who doesn't understand anything, and I still need your guidance. Isn't this a game? How could you be so emotional? Although Yang Jie has not completely confused virtual and reality, she feels that the sadness at this moment is too real and may take a long time to ease. However, now she is in this beginner guide plot, and the crisis has not yet been resolved. The agile exoskeleton armored soldiers began to patrol the battlefield to confirm whether the enemy forces had been completely annihilated. For this, he also slowed down his speed and carefully searched for every possible hiding place for Tibetans. But even if the other party hasn't found Yang Jie's hiding place yet, she has no chance to escape. Because the heavily armored exoskeleton warrior still carried the terrifying heavy machine gun, eagerly waiting for the uncontrollable rabbit to fall into the trap. What should we do? Are you going to compete with them? But everyone can't beat these two people, can I beat them alone? Young Jia couldn't help but grab onto the AWP in her hand, but her eyes were a bit bewildered. Little sister, relax and let me come. Suddenly, a seemingly unfamiliar voice came from deep within Yang Jia's mind. Who will come? Yang Jia instinctively turned around to take a look. But the next second, she found herself lifting her hands up. But she never thought about raising a gun. The scene of her teammate being beaten into a sieve has not been erased from her mind yet. Is this action a bit familiar now? Isn't it inexplicable that the enemy who fired indiscriminately in front of them and ambushed them in the back? Don't be nervous, I have no ill intentions and won't harm you. The voice in her mind was relatively gentle, and the tone of her speech made Yang Jia immediately react. Is this Yang Jia? Yang Jia is too familiar with his voice. Yang Jia did not respond. He seemed very serious because the action of raising the gun was very gentle and could not be extended from behind the cover for the enemy to notice. But as he fiddled with the AWP and scope, and tracked the agile exoskeleton armored warrior's movement trajectory and jumping rhythm with his gaze for a while, his movements suddenly became bold. Bang! I saw Yang Jia suddenly control Yang Jia's body to stand up from behind the cover, and in just 1 second, he completed the aiming and shooting actions. A loud sniper gunshot. In the sight, Yang Jia could clearly see the agile exoskeleton armored soldier with blood mist flying behind his head and falling backwards to the ground. Dead. The monster that killed several of their soldiers and even Captain Hu Zinan has finally died. Although Yang Jia hasn't figured out what the sound in her mind is, seeing AWP accurately hitting the enemy and Hu Zinan avenging him, her face couldn't help but show a smile of joy. Another one, hey, not good. Yang Jia's voice rang out again. He was still turning the gun head, but there was no time at all. His eyes saw that the remaining heavily armored exoskeleton soldier had already reacted and turned the muzzle of the heavy machine gun. He quickly controlled Yang Jia's body, pulled himself out, and ran away. The next second, bang bang bang, sound of stones exploding behind her, and the wall that Yang Jia had just leaned against had already turned into powder under this terrifying firepower. The sound of the heavy machine gun did not stop, and the bullets chased Yang Jia's escape steps. Running is definitely impossible. Although the movement speed of the heavy machine gun was slow, Yang Jia had already played for half an hour. After walking for so long, her body was already tired, and she didn't run as fast as a wild man. With such a desperate escape, it was easy to be blocked by the chaotic city ruins. His gun doesn't swing so fast, I'll make an emergency stop and get rid of him. Yang Jia's voice rang out again in her head. But what if it doesn't hit? Yang Jia was so nervous that her adrenal hormones were soaring. Can't hit them, no, she's going to hang up. It's okay, it's just a game. If it's a big deal, start over by reading the file. Yang Jia thinks we can put it all together. Shoo. Just as he was about to break heart and turn the gun around, suddenly a familiar sound of a shell piercing through the air echoed in Yang Jia's ear. Coming again. No, it seems that the sound this time is not right. The sound went from far to near, but did not fly to Yang Jia's head. Then she quickly determined that the explosion sound produced by the shell came from the direction of the heavily armored exoskeleton soldier. Yang Jia couldn't help but turn her head and see that the location of the monster she had just hated had turned into a sea of fire. What's the situation? Is this air firepower support coming? Yang Jia's excited voice echoed in her mind. They coincidentally remembered the remote control that Captain Hu Zinan handed to Yang Jia before leaving. It must be that remote control that summoned reinforcements for them. Yang Jia turned her head to look at the sky with some excitement, thinking that there would be a heroic figure of a fighter jet flying low like in a movie. However, a bigger surprise appeared before her eyes. Accompanied by the powerful and intense BGM of the system, a humanoid aircraft broke through the clouds from the pitch-black night sky. This is requesting recommendation tickets and monthly tickets, end of this chapter. Chapter 7. Mech tie pants are spicy. 12. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Mech tie pants are spicy. 12. Sleeping slot. Mech. Yang Jie's excited voice told Yang Jie the answer. Under the reflection of the firelight, Yang Jie saw the true appearance of this mecha. It was not particularly large, slightly smaller than a fighter jet, but if placed in front of an exoskeleton armored soldier, the formidable enemy that had previously frightened Yang Jie would suddenly become a weak and petite chihuahua. After the mecha approached, Yang Jie could see more clearly. It was sprayed with golden paint, but the war left mottled marks on its body. This does not affect its appearance, just like a soldier with scars on his face, his fierce and iron-blooded temperament is even more impressive. The front of the cockpit is covered by a spherical glass cover, and Yang Jie can see a driver wearing special glasses sitting inside. There is also a transforming weapon system. The barrel of the missile that was just fired has been retracted, and two thick cylindrical barrels slowly protrude from both sides of the body. These two gun barrels are obviously not any decorations. Quickly, two light streams formed by the convergence of high-speed large-caliber bullets spewed out of the barrel, like Zhu Beiji's rake, fiercely plowing through the area where the enemy was originally located in the back and forth rotation of the mech. The reinforced concrete in the ruins of the city was blasted to pieces, and even the soil covered with stone slabs underground was dug up. This scene is very spectacular, even though the sound of gunfire and explosions has been completely covered by the game's BGM. Yang Jie still felt a strong visual shock. Of course, if that guy Yang Jie didn't keep shouting in her head, such a shock would probably make Yang Jie speechless for a long time. Wow! This is too handsome, isn't it? Once a mecha is launched, who can compete with it? No wonder it's called Machine Warfare Sequence. Is mecha combat its ultimate mystery? Woo-woo, I feel like I was born in the wrong era. Little sister, the games in your era are really amazing. Although the sound only appeared inexplicably in her mind, Yang Jie couldn't help but sketch a picture of a boy dancing with excitement in her mind. It's really, tie pants are spicy. Yang Jie pursed her mouth and a smile flashed around the corner of her mouth that had just involuntarily risen. The mecha is still pouring bullets into the deserted city ruins. I don't know if the game's program is not set properly. Perhaps even the designer didn't expect a novice player to kill an agile exoskeleton armored warrior, and the mecha will continue to eliminate enemies that have already been annihilated. Hey, would you like to explain why you got into my head? At this moment, Yang Jie spoke up and asked. Little sister, are you referring to me? Yang Jie's laughter abruptly came to an end. Who else besides you? And how can you control my body? Yang Jie asked very seriously. This is not a joke. Who wants their body to be manipulated by others at will? Well, this little sister, listen to me first. I appeared in your body without any intention or malice. Yang Jie has a special connection with her. Even if he may not fully understand Yang Jie's thoughts, he can directly feel her emotions. Yang Jie was the same, and she clearly captured Yang Jie's panicked, nervous, and cautious emotional state. Who knows you, maybe you're waiting for a suitable time to seize the magpie's nest while I'm not paying attention. Yang Jie pursed her mouth. Even if she could feel Yang Jie's kindness, she didn't want the other person to be in her body and would occasionally take over her limbs. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Yang Jie, which is a bit similar to your name, but I am an outstanding Jie. I know you are Yang Jie, and I have read your memories. Yes, the situation is what you see. I don't know what's going on, because after death, I've been unconscious and don't know anything. When I wake up, it's already on you so many years later. You don't know how to get in, do you know how to get out? I don't know either. I really don't know, little sister. I really have no intention of harming anyone. You also checked in the dormitory before, and I only died after saving people. If I had any malicious intentions, I wouldn't have gone to save people and harmed myself, would you? Yang Jie's words make sense. Yang Jie, who knew about his life experiences, knew that Yang Jie was a good person. Although he played games with a fierce marksmanship and style, Yang Jie in daily life was approachable and very approachable. His teammates and even opponents had good relationships with him. Even in terms of male-female relationships, Yang Jie has always been very clean. He has never been in love with any girl, let alone flirting, in pursuit of competition results and dreams. Such a competitive player is quite rare even in the professional circles of Europe and America, and even in the sports competition circle. Many media outlets praise him as a self-disciplined maniac and a role model for professional players. Moreover, he disregarded his own safety in order to save others, and Yang Jie did not believe that he would harm others for the sake of rebirth in 30 years. But whether Yang Jie harms himself or not is one thing. He has been staying in his own body for a long time, which is not a problem. What if you don't go out? I'm a girl, you're a boy, there's a difference between men and women. Just now in the dormitory. Yang Jie suddenly felt a deep blush on her face. She remembered that she had changed clothes before going out just now. Oh no! Did he not see everything through his own eyes? Although Yang Jie was speechless, she had already understood her thoughts from her emotional state. No, little sister, I assure you, really no. There are differences between men and women, and I know it too. Just now in your dormitory, I just checked your computer to check my information at first, and later I locked myself up. I really didn't sneak a peek at your girl's privacy. Yang Jie quickly explained. Lock it up. Yang Jie tilted her head in confusion. How to lock it up? You can come in and take a look in your consciousness. How to get in? Just close your eyes. Yang Jie hesitated for a moment before slowly closing her eyes. She closed her eyes and only saw a red patch. The holographic glasses outside her eyelids were still shining, but soon, a hand reached out from somewhere and grabbed her. She actually saw that slender hand, as if it was specifically designed for playing the piano or typing on the keyboard. This hand shape is not unfamiliar to Yang Jie, that's how Yang Jie looks. Yang Jie's hands are a bit small. Although her skin is smooth and delicate, she feels a bit embarrassed and doesn't think her hands are as beautiful as a boy's. In her wild thoughts, the hand held her as if passing through a thick mist, and then she appeared in a strange, empty space. There, Yang Jie also saw the owner of this hand, a tall and thin boy standing beside her, looking at her apologetically. It's Yang Jie. Yang Jie is very familiar with his appearance, just like the photo, he is a bit handsome. But this was the first time she had seen his energetic eyes, bright and profound, warm and sincere. Where is this? After a brief eye contact, Yang Jie moved away and pretended to be scanning around. 100 collections, although the results are not good, this is still a new beginning for Xiaohan in a new field, milestone by milestone, striving to break through. Thank you all for your support, and also thank you for the reward from the God of Autumn. 3. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. My Field, As You Like, 22. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. My Field, As You Like, 22, Where is there anything to see around? It was gray and seemed like a wall made of clouds, yet it seemed boundless, mysterious and terrifying. I don't know what to call it, but I think we can apply the words from online novels and call it, your sea of consciousness, which means space of consciousness. I have been staying here all along. Yang Jie scratched his head. So how do you lock yourself up? Yang Jie has not forgotten this issue that she is very concerned about. These clouds, you see, with a wave of my hand, they surround me and I can't see anything. If you want to see them, then move them away so that I can get into your body and merge with you. Yang Jie waved his hand, and the gray space surrounded them even more tightly. With another wave of his hand, the direction in which Yang Jie had just arrived became clear, and Yang Jie immediately felt the connection between her consciousness and her body. Can I control these clouds? Yang Jie did not return to her body, but continued to ask. It should be possible, give it a try and bring some imagination. Yang Jie is not sure, he knows all of these things that he has figured out on his own, just like playing a brand new game. Yang Jie waved her hand while thinking of clouds and mist in her mind. Almost in an instant, there was a surge of wind and clouds in the consciousness space, and thick clouds with very strong movement swept around them. So powerful. But it's also your own body. In the words of a novel, it's your field. Yang Jie looked at these changes in surprise. Besides changing clouds, what else can we change? When Yang Jie realized that the things in this space could be controlled freely by her, she suddenly became interested. I don't know. Yang Jie scratched his head, he didn't understand anything, and those clouds just now were not created by him. They already exist. But Yang Jie quickly demonstrated to him what my field means. I saw Yang Jie lifting her hands as if manipulating a puppet, kneading clusters of clouds together out of thin air. As the smoke dissipated, blocks of beautifully textured stone bricks appeared in the space. At the beginning, you still need to knead the clouds, but when you become proficient later on, the stone bricks will appear out of thin air like copying and pasting. If this is just creation, relying on imagination is enough, then Yang Jie's next operation is not something that Yang Jie can imagine. Under the control of Yang Jie's flying fingers, blocks of stone bricks were stacked like building blocks, without the need for cement. They were stacked and solidified into one. Foundations, beams, columns, walls, roofs. In just a few minutes, a standalone residential building with Huizhou style appeared in front of Yang Jie. Horsehead walls, small green tiles, everything. Even many details were created by Yang Jie, such as the ancient money-patterned lattice windows and the beast-like roof ridges. Beautiful, just like ancient buildings in real scenic spots, with updated bricks and no sense of old age. Rise from the ground. Little sister, are you playing my world? Yang Jie was stunned. At this moment, he looked at Yang Jie, no longer like he was looking at a girl. In his eyes, Yang Jie seemed to be covered in light, as if God had descended. I am studying civil engineering. Yang Jie just answered casually. She felt like a child discovering a new toy, with her eyes filled with her own architecture and this magical consciousness space, a bit addicted and unable to extricate herself. No wonder I used to study civil engineering. Yang Jie looked like he had a sudden realization, but in reality, he had no understanding of what civil engineering was. He had never even gone to college, and before starting high school, he went to Europe to compete. Are college students so awesome? Do you want to go in and take a look? Yang Jie suddenly turned her head to look at him. Okay, let's take a look. Yang Jie didn't think much and walked into this Huizhou-style building. Squeezing. He had just entered when the wooden door behind him suddenly closed by himself. Little sister, won't you take me on a tour? Yang Jie felt something was wrong, but when he turned around to open the door, it remained motionless as if it had been locked from the outside. Not only that, it seems to have turned into a physical object. Even if Yang Jie waved his hand, he couldn't shake these two doors like driving away clouds and mist, let alone the bricks and tiles of this building. It's over. Yang Jie felt a bit regretful. He realized that he was too honest and had no defensive mentality towards Yang Jie. He just wanted to gain her trust so that he could have the opportunity to play that game called Machine Warfare Sequence again. Now it's okay, I've been locked up by someone else's girl. This is Yang Jie's consciousness space, her exclusive domain. After she knew how to use it, Yang Jie couldn't get any advantage in her space. Yang Jie has never been a scheming person. It used to be like this. His goal in playing games was very clear, to be able to stand on the world's highest stage and achieve his dream of becoming a champion. Therefore, even if other professional players started live streaming to make money, he remained unmoved and sat in front of the computer day after day, devoting himself to practicing shooting. Now it's the same way. He thinks that as long as people treat each other sincerely, they can trust each other. Moreover, he now lives in Yang Jie's body, and his memories are all known by her. There are no secrets worth hiding. But Yang Jie didn't expect that this easily blushing little sister would set a big trap for him and directly trick him into being locked up in a small black room. Will there never be a chance to see the light again in the future? Just like in the past 30 years, continuing to sleep in chaos. Yang Jie sat on the threshold stone, with his arms propped up on his knees and his head drooping slightly. The entire sea of consciousness is an independent space, and Yang Jie's brick and stone building has become a separate space. Inside, Yang Jie does not know the passage of time, nor can he hear the movements of the outside world. I don't even know how long it took before the wooden door suddenly creaked open again. Yang Jie lifted his head in surprise and looked behind him. The girl stood outside the door, and as soon as her gaze met Yang Jie's, her eyes immediately dodged like frightened deer. Perhaps she also felt that it was unreasonable to trick Yang Jie into a small black room, and she felt a bit guilty. Her fingers were twisted on the hem of her clothes, not knowing how to say the opening line. How difficult. How about keeping it closed? I'm fine, little sister. Please believe me, I really won't hurt you. My biggest wish now is to play games in your world, such as Machine War Sequence. Other times, it's okay if you lock me up here. I won't pry into your privacy. Yang Jie felt a bit guilty when he saw her timid appearance. His experience with girls was close to zero, so he could only speak clumsily and continue to be honest. If I could still play games after death, it would already be very happy. Yang Jie lifted her head and glanced at Yang Jie's sincere eyes. I've taken a look at the surrounding environment for you. Yang Jie bit her lower lip lightly, hesitated for a moment, and then pointed outside the door. Yang Jigang had just been standing inside the door, and now upon hearing this, he realized that this chaotic world had completely changed its appearance. Do you know why Yang Jie didn't completely shut down this soul from 30 years ago? End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Caring for Solitary Old Ghosts, 12. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Caring for Solitary Old Ghosts, 12. As he walked out of the door, Yang Jie suddenly felt a bright light in front of him. The space was suddenly open, the clear and rippling lake water, and the lush mountains in the distance did Yang Jie create another scene out of thin air. If it weren't for the blurriness of the distant space above his head like the edge of a game map, the inability of the lake to reflect the surrounding environment, and some physical bugs, Yang Jie would have thought he had crossed again and returned to the former Jiangnan water town. It has to be said that Yang Jie's ability in civil engineering is indeed quite amazing. Just now, Yang Jie's Huizhou-style buildings have extended to both sides, adding several ancient buildings with pink walls, black tiles, and upturned eaves. The staggered and towering horse head walls give people an indescribable elegant charm. On one side of the lake, there are willows leaning against it, while on the other side, there are long embankments and arched bridges. Looking down, the small green brick paved path by the lake is still mixed with moss. Looking at the details, the atmosphere is perfect. Even the chaotic clouds in the distance seem like a misty mountain with drizzling rain. The more they look, the more beautiful and charming they become. If you live here, the environment will be better and you will feel more comfortable. Yang Jie pointed to her newly created landscape and said to Yang Jie. Yang Jie's heart warmed upon hearing this. The displeasure of Yang Jie locking him in the dark room just now dissipated, and he even felt ashamed to reflect on himself, thinking that he should not treat Yang Jie as the kind of mischievous little witch in the novel. What a great girl! Not only can one build a house or create a garden, but they also know how to care for lonely old ghosts. I don't know if people who died all have this feeling. After the Qingming festival, no one burned things. Suddenly, a stranger burned a big house and a big car. This surprise and emotion should be described in what kind of words? Since you can't leave me for now, we can only find a more harmonious way to coexist. So, I would like to make a 3-chapter agreement with you. Yang Jie mustered the courage to talk to this boy from 30 years ago. Yang Jie kept nodding. He saw the dawn of hope, and as long as Yang Jie accepted his existence, he was willing to agree to any conditions. Firstly, when I feel inconvenient, I will ask you to go back to the room and not look or listen to anything. You must do it. No problem. Secondly, many occasions are also inconvenient, such as when I return to my dormitory, where there are girls, or women's restrooms, changing rooms, etc. I may not remember to ask you, but you should consciously go back to the room, not look or listen. Okay, if you stay in your dormitory in the future, I won't come out. Thirdly, you cannot control my body without my consent. This is my body, and I will be very angry. Yang Jie looked bloated with anger, little did she know that her expression was as cute as a chipmunk. Did you hear that? Ah. Yes, I promise, besides playing games, I won't control your body, and that also requires your permission before I can play. Yang Jie just looked at the girl's bulging cheeks and was a bit dazed. He was asked a second time before quickly answering. Do you want to play games? Yang Jie's bright big eyes blinked. This question doesn't actually require Yang Jie to answer, she knows exactly what the answer is. As early as the memory of Yang Jie was instilled in her, she saw his obsession with games. This almost crazy love was something she couldn't understand, so she came to the internet cafe with her roommates to personally experience the game and explore his emotional journey. You can go play for me. Now I agree that you can temporarily control my body. Yang Jie said things that Yang Jie was eager for, but he didn't dare to ask for extravagantly. Isn't it already over? Why hasn't it come out yet? Yuan Junfeng was eagerly anticipating the end of the novice guide mission in the hall, but Yang Jie had not come out yet. He wanted to leave the game and return to reality to see if there was anything wrong with the girl. But he was reluctant to leave, afraid that when he turned around, Yang Jie would come out and go play on his own without seeing him. Isn't the legendary timing hero like this? Sure enough, just as he was about to go out and take a look, Yang Jie's figure suddenly appeared in the hall. Xiao Jie. Yuan Junfeng secretly felt relieved that he had not run around recklessly and had gained something from his perseverance. He welcomed him with a smile on his face, seemingly forgetting the agony of waiting for almost an hour earlier. Don't call me Xiao Jie, just call me Yang Jie. Yang Jie, no, it should be said that Yang Jie was particularly uncomfortable when he heard this. He didn't originally intend to speak up, afraid of revealing his identity, but still couldn't help but ask this attentive boy to change his name. How long have we known each other? Just Xiao Jie is shouting so hot. Is it suitable? He just called Yang Jie little sister, fearing that he might call her too close and offend her. Well, okay, Yang Jie, what do you think of the expansion pack just now? Do you think this game is too violent and bloody? Why don't we go play Elf Kingdom instead? Yuan Junfeng didn't know that the girl in front of him had changed, but he was still trying to persuade Yang Jie and him to go boating in the forest and lake where the starlight could be reflected. No, just play Machine Warfare Sequence. Did you say I was just playing an expansion pack? Yang Jie just wants to play games with guns. Yes, generally speaking, beginners can learn about the story background of this game through expansion packs. Do you have any other expansion packs? Yes, there are many, such as expansion packs about the use of exoskeleton armor, expansion packs about the use of mechs, and expansion packs for different maps. The expansion packs also contain stories like prequels. However, expansion packs are all PV, meaning that the characters and program settings are played. Relatively speaking, the competitiveness and fun are not as strong. For example, you should have encountered mecha reinforcements just now, right? Is he very powerful? As soon as he appears, he destroys everything and no one can beat him. But in fact it was this mode that changed the parameters. The mecha is not as powerful as we usually play, although it is relatively strong, there is no saying that it can defeat others without the ability to fight back. My suggestion is to play other modes such as casual mode, death fight mode, and escape mode, so that you can have a clearer understanding of the core gameplay of this game. We can form a small team to play together. Yuan Juanfeng's last sentence exposed his intentions. Now Yang Jie's meaning is very clear. She wants to play Machine Warfare Sequence, but if she still wants to play the expansion pack and plot mode, then Yuan Junfeng can only continue to work outside. Why don't they team up and play with other players? Yuan Junfeng can also show her marksmanship and let her feel how safe she is under her protection. Consciousness space has its advantages, let's guess what it can be used for later. P.S. Thank you, Xiaoxin, and it's also a reward from Haotian. 3. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Desert Oasis, Hanging Garden, 22, Happy Mother's Day. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Desert Oasis, Hanging Garden, 22, Happy Mother's Day. You are heading to the Desert Oasis. The loading speed of the game is very fast. After Yuan Junfeng chose the casual competition mode, the scene changed, and Yuan Junfeng and Yang Jie's two-person team had already appeared in the belly compartment of a transport plane, similar to the beginning of the Novice Guide expansion pack. However, it was not just the two of them who appeared together in the cabin. When the light lit up, Yang Jie noticed that they were surrounded by people. Roughly speaking, there were 10 people in total, twice as many as the 5-person team in the competitive competition. When the action ban is lifted, everyone is eager to unfasten their seatbelts and get off their seats. At the same time, the voice system was also released, and for a while, the voices of chatting, calling, speaking, music, and various noisy sounds filled their eardrums. Surprisingly, there are still people openly playing music on the team channel. Not to mention Yang Jie, who likes to be quiet but doesn't like to be noisy. Even if it's Yang Jie playing now, he can't help but frown at the noise pollution. Let's go to the team channel. Yuan Junfeng gave a rare suggestion that Yang Jie thought was very good. After switching to the team channel, the world suddenly became quiet. Although Yuan Junfeng was still talking incessantly, he was only very enthusiastic about explaining how to operate and buy a gun to Yang Jie, which was acceptable. Although Machine Warfare Sequence is a future game with advanced and even surreal weapons and equipment such as mechas and exoskeleton armor, Yang Jie now realizes that its core gameplay is not much different from the CS series games they used to play. They all aim to earn more money by winning each round of the game to buy better weapons and equipment. The way to win the next round is the same, that is, either destroy the enemy, or the attacker chooses one of A and B points to install explosives and wait for detonation, while the defender is to prevent the explosion. Of course, the core gameplay of CS has been extended to Machine Warfare Sequence, and although Yang Jie was surprised, he was not surprised. After all, classics are always classics. In Yang Jie's era, CS series games had already adhered to this core gameplay for nearly 30 years, and even other similar shooting games used the same mode. What's so unusual about this core gameplay being used for another 30 years? Even with the emergence of new gameplay like Escape, it has sparked a trend for some time, and the explosive mode that combines balance and viewing is still the best choice for competitive competitions. However, although the core gameplay is the same, there is still a huge difference between Machine Warfare Sequence and the games Yang Jie used to play. Leaving aside the novelty of future weapons such as exoskeleton armor and mechs, game technologies like virtual reality allow him to immerse himself in the fun of the game, while also requiring him to put in more energy and exercise to truly play this game well. For example, now that the first round of the game has started, they come out of the cabin, and Yang Jie has to control her legs to run on the omnidirectional running mat, so that the characters in the game can follow suit and do the same action. Of course, just like a mouse can adjust sensitivity, their game can also adjust body sensitivity within a reasonable range. They can run more effortlessly and complete large movements with simple gestures. Just now, Yuan Junfeng told her outside that he was afraid she might get tired from playing. It's just that Yang Jie doesn't plan to adjust it. He wants to try this game first, experience the most realistic battlefield, and then consider adjusting the game's various settings to the most suitable parameters for Yang Jie's body. We are currently on an attack. You can open the map in the upper left corner and see that point A is in the larger area and point B is in the smaller area. However, they actually overlap because the map of Desert Oasis is very special. It has two layers, point A is on the ground and point B is in the aerial garden above. Just as he stepped out of the cabin, Yang Jie didn't rush forward like everyone else. He slowed down and listened to Yuan Junfeng's introduction while looking curiously. This map called Desert Oasis has a completely different style from the map full of building ruins in the expansion pack of Beginner's Guide. After coming out, Yang Jie first saw a modern city located in an endless desert. It is not the kind of small town that Yang Jie initially thought would only have a few low-rise bungalows. On the contrary, it has high-rise buildings that are no less impressive than international metropolises, and the sunlight reflects a sparkling light on the glass walls. It also has spacious roads parked with various luxury cars, and the residents here seem to be oil tycoons and billionaires. Even Yang Jie did not see the haze and dust weather that he believed would occur in the desert. Instead, the weather was exceptionally clear, with pure white clouds floating in the blue sky like cotton. The main color tone of the entire map is not the yellow of the desert, but rather the green of the oasis. Looking around, the city on the ground has street trees, street parks, and even balconies planted with green plants, representing the vibrant green embellishment of this modern city. And what Yuan Junfeng said about the sky garden is even more lush. This aerial garden. Yang Jie raised his head and pointed to the aerial platform supported by several buildings and large pillars ahead, unable to help but exclaim in amazement. He did not doubt that this was an aerial garden, because the platform was already covered with dense plants, and even the bottom of the platform was covered with thick vines, which spread out thick leaves as big as umbrellas. But this is also too spectacular. The entire platform is as big as 2 or 3 football fields. Even with the support of buildings and pillars, it gives people a feeling of supporting a large garden floating in the air. This is not like that, or something. He seems to have seen some historical allusions about such a building in his impression, but unfortunately, the cultural level is too low to speak up. Babylon's Hanging Gardens. In the conscious space, Yang Jie couldn't bear to watch anymore and spoke up for him. Yes, Babylon's Hanging Gardens. Yang Jie happily repeated it again. That's this thing. Yuan Junfeng listened inexplicably. In his opinion, Yang Jigang was completely asking and answering questions to himself, talking to himself. Are you going to point B to take a look? The Hanging Garden is point B. But our current laybao has been taken by our teammates to charge towards point A. Although he was taking care of his younger sister, Yuan Junfeng couldn't help but consider the direction of winning the game after entering the game. If it were the old birds in the game garden, perhaps they wouldn't even think about meeting their teammates. Isn't it more important to take my sister to the garden? Who cares about the lives of other teammates? Then let's go to a 2. Let's go. At this moment, Yang Jie also heard intense gunshots coming from point A, and his deep love surged up in his soul. He greeted Yuan Junfeng and took the initiative to kill in the direction of the gunshots. Xiaohan wishes all the friends who have become mothers and everyone a happy Mother's Day here. Dedicated a song by Zhao Lei titled, I Remember, to the great mothers in the world. You've worked hard. End of this chapter.